Okay, are we ready to get started, or did we want to wait a couple minutes?
Maybe a couple, maybe 1 or 2 minutes, just to see if there's any stragglers.
Okay. All right, ready? All right. So hi everyone. Just a note real quick before we get started. This webinar is being recorded today. My name is Caitlin Wager from Alney Central College.
And my name is Valerie Moore. I'm from Prairie State College.
We are members of the NILROC Professional Development Committee. Unfortunately, the original host for today's webinar, Andy Kugel, had a last-minute conflict and was unable to attend. Valerie and I will be serving as co-hosts in his place today. On behalf of the Professional Development Committee, we'd like to welcome you to today's webinar on neurodiversity in the library, presented by Amy Pinc, Director of Library Systems and Technical Services, and Shekinah Lawrence, Faculty Librarian, both from Triton College. As a reminder, NILROC strives to model inclusion in all our professional development opportunities by connecting all members, welcoming all ideas, and operating through multiple formats. Your feedback is appreciated, so we will share a survey link in the chat towards the end of the presentation. Without further ado, here are Amy and Shekinah.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Caitlin and Valerie, and welcome everyone to just a quick conversation about some of the things that we have experienced in the last year as we were approaching the subject of neurodiversity in our library. So Amy is my co-host, and if you can go ahead and go to the next slide, Amy, just showing everyone who we are. Welcome, everyone. As mentioned before, I am Shekinah Lawrence, and I am a librarian here at the Triton College Library, and Amy is the Director of Library Systems and Technical Services here at Triton. And we have been working over the last year trying to understand the needs of our neurodiverse students and the neurodiverse in our community. And you can go to the next slide, Amy. What happened was we had a conversation with our president, And she is a library lover. And one of the things that she shared was she thought it would be really nice to bring all of the district libraries together, not only our public libraries, but the libraries that are our feeder schools and our high schools on campus, to introduce them to campus and to reaffirm our community partnerships. And at the same time, we were in the midst and still are of a strategic plan goal reaching cycle. And as a part of goal 3, you'll see on this slide that it is our goal to strengthen Triton College's relationships with the community and prepare students to enter the workforce. And it aligns with the mission's focus of serving the community. So as you can see, community focus was on our president's mind. It's been on our school's mind for quite some time, and is a larger part of goal 3. We were looking to figure out ways that we could serve the neurodiverse in our community as well as our student population. And so we had an epiphany to bring these two ideas together, because we thought if we are looking at ways to serve the community through helping our neurodiverse learners, we figured that our public libraries and our high school libraries probably were considering ways to serve this segment of the community as well. So we combined the two ideas together, and we decided to invite all of those library partners to our library just to talk about neurodiversity and say, hey, what are you guys doing? And hey, let's share ideas and think about ways that we can serve this community better. And so thus I was given the charge to plan a forum. And as you'll see from the next slide, this is basically what I was doing in planning. I'm like, what in the world do I do? How do I bring all of these people together? And what are we going to talk about? And it was really something. So my first thought was, having never planned a workshop, conference, or forum before, next slide, I said, okay, I'm going to look at it as I'm going to plan a big party with a speaker, and we're going to all just have a great conversation and celebrate and all of those things. But as you all know, planning forums and conferences is not a big party with just a speaker. It's definitely more of a speaker and a whole bunch of folks getting together, talking about the things to make sure that everyone is on the same page and that things make sense. So what did happen is we were able to secure a speaker, and we were so very happy and proud that our speaker, Dr. Lee Burdett Williams, who is the director of the College Autism Network, so graciously said yes, that she would come and speak to libraries. And one of the things that we thought was really wonderful is that she shared with us that this was a segment of people who had not yet really talked a lot about serving the autism community and the neurodiverse community, or at least in her spectrum of where she had been speaking and teaching, she really was only directing her teaching focus at the time to community colleges, learning institutions, but not the library in particular. So what we did ask is, well, let's make sure that we understand how to share with people what is neurodiversity. How does your library serve the neurodiverse population in the community? What suggestions do you have about updating your library space to serve the neurodiverse community? And we decided to move forward with the theme of my library is a safe place to learn. And so thus we started planning, and the planning included the guest list, which looked at our public libraries, our school libraries. We have a program here on campus through our Center for Accommodative Services called the SEED program, and the SEED program serves students and individuals who are needing to learn skills in order to prepare them for the workforce. Many of them do identify as neurodiverse, not all of them, but many of them do. And so we wanted to invite them to this time of discussion so that they could help inform the conversation. We wanted to offer breakfast and lunch. We, of course, had our guest speaker on par and our administration coming to talk a little bit more about what our goals were as a college. And then we wanted to do some roundtable discussions where the other libraries could have a voice in what have they done, what are they doing, do they have questions, how could we partner, and then consider the takeaways. And we did provide an exit survey to find out from them what we thought or what they thought about the forum and what they thought would be needed or necessary for discussion, because we wanted to provide the forum a year later to come back and talk about wins and opportunities. So here's what we learned. So the first thing is, when you get ready to invite schools, high schools, middle school librarians to a function that's happening in the fall, you cannot wait until mid-May or anytime after, because guess what? They're on vacation and they're out of school and they are not in the building. So it was really hard to get in contact with the schools because we were kind of late to the party, realizing that they're on a very strict school time schedule. Another thing that I learned that I didn't know, and perhaps I should have asked these questions, but we didn't require any payment for our forum, which of course we wanted to offer for free. But we did want to require registration so that we could have account. And of course, account will be necessary for ordering materials as well as ordering catering for food. But one of the things that I forgot to ask was, could you just tell us your name? I said, what library are you from, or what school are you from, and are you coming? And of course, we got a lot of great response from the community, but it would have been just so nice if I would have had them put their name on the registration, because as Amy will share in a few moments, some of the opportunities that happened when people were coming in and excited about the forum. This is really fun. Sandwiches are a no-go. We had lunch and we chose to do box lunches because we thought it would be easy to kind of have something where you can eat with your fingers and have a conversation, almost as if it were like an indoor picnic. But the thing is, when you're eating sandwiches and you're having a conversation and you have a mouthful of food, it is really hard to have a full conversation. So I really don't know the answer to that, because the reality is it could have been any kind of food. It didn't really just have to be sandwiches. So there are some things where, okay, we need to consider how we serve what we serve. And then when we were engaging our neurodiverse students, many times neurodiverse students really need structure. And so this being our first opportunity to offer this type of forum / conference, there were some times where we went over a few minutes because we were having a rich discussion, or maybe the lunch didn't come in right on time because we were still in the middle of a presentation. And for many neurodiverse people, that could be an issue because they are very, they've settled themselves into the expectation of what the agenda says or what the time frames say. And so we wanted to honor the fact that people really want to make sure, they want to be on schedule. They want to be learning according to the agenda. Now, we did have some great successes because all in all, we did end up having a really wonderful day. And our speaker was phenomenal. She was so patient and she answered the questions. And she really helped our group at large, libraries as well as our administration, understand more about how to serve neurodiverse individuals, and then also how to think about creative ways that libraries can serve neurodiverse individuals in particular. We had a suggestion from our counseling group within Triton College to put fidgets on the table. And it was just something super simple. She was like, hey, they don't cost much. And sometimes people just need a little something in their hand while they're listening. It won't be distracting. It's just something that they can use to kind of help them stay focused. So we took that idea and we went and we got quite a few dozen of different types of fidgets, and we put them on all the different tables. And I'll tell you, if there wasn't anything else on that survey, that was the number one thing that people loved was the fidgets. So highly, highly recommend. It is a very inexpensive, quick win when you're doing any kind of workshop or forum, because sometimes you just need a little something in your hand, a little squeeze ball or a little spinner or something, just to kind of keep your hands moving while your brain can stay focused on what's happening. And then the future planning, which we are in the stages of doing that now, it doesn't just include the planning of the next forum, but also the ideas and the things that we are going to put into practice between now and then to begin to serve this community of students is a part of the future planning of what it looks like for next year. And then the best part of all was the relationship building. We had a chance to speak to our public librarians and a few of our school librarians, and these have become really good friendships, as well as partnerships that everyone wants to maintain. And so we're looking at some different things in the future that can not only have them come once a year for maybe a forum, but just other opportunities where we all can serve our community together. Amy, you want to talk a little bit about your experience with what happened on that day?
Yeah, sure. So as Shekinah said, with the planning portion, I wasn't incredibly involved in that. I knew we were having a forum. I knew that there was planning in place, but I wasn't actually active in that. But I was active on the day of. So a few things going with the challenges section that we noticed. First, the no name for online registration. That became a bit of a bottleneck issue when we were going to, record and let people into the meeting, because we did want to have a exit survey and kind of record who was there and what library they represented. And so they had to physically write all of their information out, which caused a bit of lines to form at the beginning before the forum. So I don't think it impacted the time we started, but it definitely could have. And we were giving out our little party bags. I guess I would say we had a nice little tote and a tote, a mug, and I think we had tickets to Cernan, or that might have been in their actual pamphlet that they got from us.
Mm-hmm.
So we were also handing things out, and that got very kind of chaotic, making sure everybody got what they needed, put in all their information, and actually got into the area we were having the forum. So we definitely learned from that experience to request names at the very least. As for the issue with lunch, I think one of the things was there was a few miscommunications about when lunch would be served versus when the speaker would be finished. So the speaker was waiting for lunch to be brought in to finish, and I was waiting for the speaker to finish to bring lunch in. So there was a bit of a challenge there. I also feel like where we had the lunch, it might have been a little bit distracting, setting it up to some of our neurodiverse individuals who were trying to pay attention to the speaker, but also other things were happening in the room. I mean, Shekinah talked great about all our successes, so I thought it was really interesting from the survey results that we got really good feedback from our community members, and they really were thankful and grateful that we put this on. I will head to the next slide. That is,
So really a lot of the challenges and things that we experienced, I think were basically just rookie mistakes. I mean, those of you who have had opportunities to plan workshops and conferences for your institutions, these are probably things where you're like, well, duh, you guys probably just didn't know that because this was your first time. And so I'm grateful for the opportunity because, again, it was all a learning experience. But the biggest fruit that came from this day was, like I said, the partnerships that we built, and then the ideas of where we would move forward. So in this slide, you're going to look at what we are discovering as we are moving forward to actually begin to employ some of the knowledge of what we learned, some of the things that we are using to help our students. And the biggest thing came out of reviewing our library space. So our library space, we think, is really beautiful. It's really large and spacious, and we're very, very grateful for what we have because our main floor hosts a lot of open air study space. And then our second floor hosts our collection. And in both areas, there are many places where students can study in groups or separately, individually, but it's a really lovely space. However, it is a really large space, and what we have found from the research and just from what people have shared with us who identify as neurodiverse is sometimes a really, really large space can be somewhat imposing, and you can almost feel like you get lost or swallowed in it. It also has really, really bright lighting. And some of our partners in the community shared that one of the things that they do offer are sensory friendly hours where they have less traffic in the library or lower lighting. So we were considering how can we offer something similar, because that's also one of those small wins of just really reconsidering different times of day where you can make things a little more cozy friendly, if so to speak. And the biggest way we would be able to accomplish that was to kind of re-examine our library space using universal design. So we had a universal design professional on our campus, and he came over and talked with us along with our dean, and we walked through the space. And although he did point out some of the really positive things that our library had to offer, he did also point out some opportunities where we could reconsider or reimagine the space. And that led us into our wayfinding research project. So what we have learned and noticed is that we do have signs, but some of the signs can be either very small. Sometimes the signs can probably be not placed in the most ideal spot. We also do not have any multi-language signs, even though we do serve quite a bit of the community who speaks more than just English. And then there's not a whole lot of picture language on our signs either, because we do realize that as we've been looking at the research that people really respond well to icons giving them directions on where they can go or where they can be in a space. And so that has birthed our research for wayfinding. And so we are in the midst of that research right now, where we are working with a couple of credit class students for rhetoric, because they are super users and they're in our library often. We're also working again with our new seed students that have joined for this semester. And then we're working with our adult education department for our new students that have begun to use the library for different various reasons. And many of the adult education students are ESL students. So quite a few of them, English is going to be their second language. And so we wanted to hear from them as to how easy or challenging it was to navigate the library space. We're hoping to have more information from the surveys that we will be issuing in March. And then by April, we can take a look at the results of those surveys and be able to inform how we can submit recommendations to our administration as well as our facilities team to help us in refining the space in such a way where people are able to navigate it in a comfortable way for whatever their needs are. We're also working with some campus partners like our Center for Accommodative Services, as well as counseling and adult education, to think about different types of ways to make neurodiverse learners feel a little bit more comfortable in the space. And sometimes that may mean rethinking the different types of furniture options you have. I mentioned the lights before. We're looking at ways that we can figure out how to lower the lights during certain hours, or maybe even provide spaces where there are just personal lights, like a lamp or something on the table. We do have some study rooms, but sometimes the study rooms, they're very popular, so they're often reserved for other students. And so therefore, we want to be able to see if there are other areas in the library where we can offer a student an opportunity to have a private working space. Now, within our library, we do have study carrels, and the study carrels seem to serve our students pretty well. But even with the study carrels, it's still very open air. And so sometimes we are finding that the research suggests, as well as the feedback from some of our neurodiverse learners, that still is a little bit too out in the open for them. So we're hoping that the results of the Wayfinding research project is going to help us understand how we can refine the space. And then, in just kind of a twist of fate, where we had some ideas coming about other programming for our library, we began to discuss that there is a whole population of our community that we haven't been serving as well as we could, and those are our homeschoolers. So we have quite a few homeschoolers in our community, and as well, as you guys probably know, in Illinois, which is a very friendly homeschooling state, there are quite a few parents and caregivers out there who homeschool their students. And so we thought about doing an open house for the homeschoolers to remind them that they are welcome in our library. So our library doesn't just serve our institution, it serves our community as well. So as long as they're coming in with their local library cards, they're able to check out resources. Why and how does this relate to neurodiversity in the library? Well, believe it or not, there is quite a few folks who homeschool their students, and their students happen to identify as neurodiverse. So we thought this would be a natural way to reach some of those parents and caregivers, to let them know that we have and we are wanting to help them in their education process. And then we also realized that when you look back at the whole idea of universal design states that when you make a change for, let's say, helping one group, it actually can help everybody. As an example, if you put a elevator in a space because maybe you have people who need wheelchair access to the second floor. Well, once you put an elevator in, it's not just folks who need wheelchair access to the second floor to use the elevator, but everyone can use the elevator. You can use the elevator if you're expecting, or you can use the elevator if you're having mobility issues, or you can use the elevator if you just tired that day. So, you know, those are the good things about universal design, and that's the thing that we're thinking about in serving our homeschoolers. And again, all of these things lead into our goal 3, where we're focusing on serving the community. So the library space, what are other libraries doing? Like I mentioned before, most libraries do have sensory-friendly hours in our community now, and those hours tend to be sometimes in the mornings, and then many times in the afternoons, or the opening afternoon hours on the weekends. Many of them are creating sensory-friendly rooms, but the rooms we're noticing are typically for children. And so we were thinking about the fact that most of our students are young adults, and adults. And so how do we take what's available for children in terms of sensory-friendly rooms and make them universal for adults or anyone that could use it? So we thought about getting some bean bags and putting a few bean bags throughout the space, using what's called a people pod. If you've seen them, they kind of look like telephone booths, but they have areas inside of them where you can kind of sit and you can do work if you need to, and it's just kind of giving you your own little space. Of course, I mentioned updating the lighting, because lighting, of course, is extremely important when it comes to considering being sensory friendly. Clear signage, we know that that's going to be really important, especially as new people from our community come in to use our space. They need to know how to navigate the space easily, because as you guys probably know, as librarians, many people do not like to ask questions. They want to be independent and they want to be able to find their way. So we know that clear signage is going to be a huge bet and win for them. And also creating a family-friendly space. Typically, academic libraries are not libraries that tend to serve children. However, we do have a robust early childhood education program here on campus. We also have a children's development center here on campus. And as I mentioned before, because we serve the community, you can bring your children here because we have many children's books, and we decided that we wanted to create a family-friendly space because we have many students who have kids and younger siblings. Some of them are caregivers, and maybe they're coming to study. Where or what can they do with their children while they're here? Well, if the library has a nice little area where you can come and study and bring your child, we wanted to see how we could make that happen for them. And we got some really wonderful ideas from one of our library partners. I think it was Sauk, the college, I think is Sauk Village Community College or Sauk Trail Community College. Forgive me if I got that name wrong, but they recently started a family-friendly space in their library, and they shared it with us back in the spring, pictures, and talked about it and how much it has really been a real joy to their library. And we thought that is a great idea. We would love to do that as well. So we are working on ways to build that into our space. So for the future, we are hoping to offer our next library forum on neurodiversity on the 1st of November. And we would like to expand our reach outside of just our current district public libraries to even open it to you all. We're hopeful that even if you guys are interested, that you would join us as just a part of the conversation, as partners, to talk about what is working for you guys and in working with your neurodiverse students, and just having a really nice panel discussion of what has happened in the last year, what has worked for you, what are some of your opportunities, what do you think would be good goals for the future. And so we actually were excited to be able to present to NeurRock today so that we can put the feelers out there and let everyone know that we do want to reconvene on November 1st with our public libraries, our school libraries, and now our NeurRock partners, as well as some of the other district libraries that are just slightly outside of our district who have had success in serving their neurodiverse students. So we are going to continue to work on refining our library programming. We are hopeful to have some really exciting changes and refinement of the space after we have had an opportunity to review the survey results from the wayfinding mission. And then we are looking forward to our homeschooling open house in this summer, where we can get even more feedback from our community about the ways that we can serve. So now we have a quick discussion. We wanted to hear from you all, to hear some of the wins and some of the challenges or some of the questions you might have for us. So our biggest questions here is, what are you doing in your libraries to serve the neurodiverse community? I think the best thing we can do is talk about that and share ideas so that we can show some some consistency and care to our neurodiverse learners so that when they go in different libraries, where they're seeing something that is relatable and friendly and receiving. And then I would also like to hear from you all is, do you have relationships with your local libraries in your district? I don't know what was happening in the district between Triton and our public libraries before I started here. I started here in April of 2021, and I actually came from the public library sphere. And there wasn't a lot of talk at that time, but there was hope to build those relationships. So I would love to hear from you all about what's happening in your communities, and then just what has worked and what needs improvement. So I would love to open it up to you all to just kind of hear your thoughts about what we discussed and what you think. And ask if, are there any questions?
Shekinah, this is Valerie. I will keep an eye on the chat, and if it's okay with anybody who drops something in the chat, I'll read it out loud when there's a break in the conversation. But in the meantime, please feel free to hop on the mic.
Sounds good. Thank you. Awesome. Well, since there aren't any questions right now, I just wanted to leave you guys with a few words and food for thought, that if you are considering looking or re-looking at your library space to see how to serve our neurodiverse friends and students, then I would recommend taking some time to go through the College Autism Network. That website is really wonderful. That is where our speaker is the director, Dr. Lee Burdett Williams. They've done quite a bit of work in how they serve autistic students and neurodiverse students. So I highly recommend spending some time there. And if you haven't had an opportunity or a chance, then reach out to your local public library partners, your adult librarians and your middle school and teen service librarians. They are in the thicket with those students, with all students, and they all have really good suggestions as well as ideas. And I think it's really lovely to be able to connect with those folks that are out there in the community, because they're serving the students that will be in your colleges very soon, within the year, within 2 years. And to be able to kind of have that transition of understanding what's happening in the community, and then being able to talk and share and relate back to your students when they come to you at your colleges. I recommend that it will be a very rich partnership if you choose to do so. And if there is no questions and nothing else, then I would love to honor your time and give you back your time.
Thank you so much. This was wonderful. Really appreciate your time. I might give folks one more awkward beat just in case anybody has any burning questions. And I should have asked this earlier, but how can folks get in touch with you if they think of something later?
Wonderful. Feel free to just email myself or Amy at librarians@triton.edu. And that way we will be sure to get it. We do, of course, have personal emails, but then you'd have to spell all of our names out, and it would just be, kind of complicated. But at librarians@triton.edu will definitely reach us, and we'll be happy to answer any questions or make some time to talk with you personally.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Surveys in the chat, as is that librarians at email.
Thank you, everyone.